So, you have a protagonist, and unless you're going to write a hermit character or something around those lines, you're going to need people for them to interact with. But how do you do that? What kinds of characters should you add? And what roles should they fulfill? Let's talk about that. This is a question I asked myself when I started writing a book. With the help of Reedsy's writing course, I had a setting, I had a plot, I have the protagonist, and then what? Everybody's process is different, but for me, the thing that gets me the most excited to write are the characters and their relationships. So this is a part of the story that I spend a lot of time thinking about. But let's start with the basics. What is a supporting character? According to Wikipedia, a supporting character is a character in a narrative that is not the focus of the primary storyline, but is important to the plot or protagonist, and appears or is mentioned in the story enough to be more than just a minor character or a cameo appearance. So, a little quiz. The pizza delivery guy who appears once in chapter 15, not important, doesn't appear enough, so not a supporting character. The protagonist's grandmother who gives them cookies once in a while, important to the character, doesn't appear enough, not a supporting character. One of the protagonist's classmates who's always there but rarely does anything for the story. They're present in the majority of the story, but they're not important, not a supporting character. So who would actually classify as a supporting character? Well, let's start off by talking a bit about the common archetypes. 1. The sidekick, a loyal friend or companion who's there to support the protagonist throughout their journey. Like for example, Donkey in Shrek and Jesse Pinkman in Breaking Bad. 2. Love interest, which is pretty self-explanatory. Is the character in which the protagonist falls in love with, like Princess Fiona in Shrek. 3. Mentor is a character that's more experienced and or more knowledgeable who will teach the protagonist important lessons, like Uncle Iroh in Avatar: The Last Airbender and Haymitch in The Hunger Games. These are just a couple of examples of what the supporting cast can look like, but there are infinite different possibilities. It depends on your specific story. For example, in the book that I'm writing, the most prevalent supporting characters are actually the protagonist's rivals, because that's what makes more sense for my story specifically. If you want to hear about it more in depth, you can watch my previous videos in the series, but to make a very long story short, my protagonist, Medora, is one of the top students in her spellcaster's school, temple, church. Anyway, she ranks at number 3 overall. Her rivals are number 1 and 2, Safiya and Yosef. But for your story, if you don't already know what characters are going to be important, try to look at the story from the outside. Analyze the story. What do you think is lacking? Maybe your protagonist is very serious and stoic, so it would be a good idea to give them a funny, light-hearted friend to balance them off. Placing characters who are very different from each other together can lead to very fun dynamics. But that's not all. Let's talk about foil. But beforehand, let me talk a little about the writing course that has been helping me a lot in my writing journey. Reedsy gifted me their How to Write a Novel course, and it has been an amazing experience. It's taught by Tom Bromley, who has been working in the publishing industry for over 2 decades. They have daily lessons up to 101, each day teaching a different aspect of writing, from characters to plot to how to begin the novel, how to end the novel, everything. And a lot of these classes actually come with little exercises for you to train your writing. I really like the way it's taught. It's amazing, truly. Not only that, they have live lessons, they have a writing community where you can ask for feedback. If that's something you're interested in, you can check it out in the link down below. Thanks Reedsy for sponsoring this video. But now, let's go back to talking about what's a foil. According to Wikipedia, in any narrative, a foil is a character who contrasts with another character, typically a character who contrasts with the protagonist, in order to better highlight or differentiate certain qualities of the protagonist. A foil to the protagonist may also be the antagonist of the plot. So it's pretty much what we've been talking about. Giving our protagonist someone they can bounce off of, someone who challenges their beliefs, their worldview. For me, this is the best part of writing the supporting cast, seeing how they impact the protagonist, how they change the narrative in their own way. But for that to be possible, there's something that's essential.
The Bluetooth device is ready to pair.
Your supporting cast has to be made out of characters and not cardboard cutouts. Just because you're adding a character to be the comic relief, that doesn't mean that that's all they should be. It's so common to say this kind of thing, seeing characters doomed to be just their role and nothing else. Honorable mention to the character Girl, whose whole personality is to be a girl, because after all, she's the only girl in the story. Please don't do this. Give your supporting characters just as much care as you do to your protagonist. If they're one-dimensional, the audience is going to notice, and it's going to make their experience much worse. So give them some complexity, a backstory from before they met the protagonist, a fleshed out personality, their own goals, and if their goal is the same as the protagonist's, why? Give them their own reason to want that. For my book, the protagonist and her rivals want the same thing, to be top of their class, but they want that for different reasons and they go about it in wildly different ways. I created them so they'll contrast with each other, so one of their strengths is one of the other weakness. The protagonist, Medora, is completely reliant on talent and her intuition and doesn't really study that much. Joseph is the complete opposite. He's not naturally gifted at all. He only got to the position he's in because he worked very hard to be there, and that causes them to fight a lot. They have very different ways of seeing that. And there's the third character, who's number one, Sophia, who's both very hardworking and very talented. She serves kind of as a mirror for Medora to show her what she could be if she actually tried. Now, it's very important to flesh out the characters as individuals, but I would argue it's just as important to flesh out the relationships between them. Let's say you have a cast of 4. That's 6 relationships you have to think about. Who's closest to who? Who has beef with who? Why? Don't just settle for the label friends. Go more in depth, be specific. Do they really like each other or are they just pretending? Who has a secret crush in who? There are so many things you can do. I have a whole video about character relationships where I go very in depth about this kind of stuff. Go check it out. Highly recommend it. And for today, this is all. If you like this video, please leave a like, it helps a lot. And consider subscribing to my channel. I post a lot of character ideas and more in my shorts tab. You probably seen one of my videos, probably, I don't know. I'll be recording a Q&A, I have a community post. If you want to ask me a question, you still can, there's still time. Thank you Reedsy again for sponsoring this video. And yeah, bye. I'm sorry if you could hear my jacket. It's very loud. I only realized it way too late. Sorry.